Good evening and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI Tournament. As you may hear from my voice, the worst of the common cold is beyond me, but it's not as smooth as it used to be, so I'll do my best, but the coughing fits will hopefully be a thing of the past. When the smoke cleared and the tournament was done, what a victory for Mr. Cherry Pie, or at least Team Cherry Pie, I must say. That was really something. Of course, Willybot won the student division, which is not unimportant for a student StarCraft AI tournament. We are back to the normal rough and tumble of updates and the glorious game, so if you do see my email address in the top left and you do happen to catch a good game, please send it to me on email and I will cast it for you. So today we will start with the games which have been recommended, which are about 2 or 3. And the first of those is Purple Swarm and TSM Ooh. Of course, TSM Ooh and all the purple bots have been reactivated now the tournament's over, because the purple wave bots are by Dan Gant, of course, and TSM Ooh is by TSM Ooh, and those gentlemen were involved with the creating, and are still involved with the creating, of the Facebook bot which is called Cherry Pie, and it looks like Purple Swarm is having the better of it, tearing down the natural at record speed, and TSM Ooh is camping the high ground with only 5 lings, but has got a sunken, and that may be a nice standoff, and also will have the Spire done rather more quickly than the opponent, it seems like. There goes the Spire. So TSM Ooh will have a window, and that is, of course, unless it gets overrun by the Zerglings before that. And there goes the spawning pool, and Purple Swarm losing a couple of lings and losing now all of the lings without really getting any workers, but as more lings are coming, the campaign is not over yet, and TSM Ooh will have something to do before this game has run its course. Has got the money for another hatchery, but is trying to do something on the low ground with these drones, and these drones aren't all up to it, so that will be rather difficult. And you can also see TSM Ooh now dropping a little bit in the worker department. Here goes another worker for reasons, and the sunken is really paying for itself. The question though is, will TSM Ooh find a breathing space to put in a Mutalisk? That would be awfully great, because Purple Swarm has got the Spire ready, 2 Mutas and all. So TSM Ooh appears to be a little bit on the back foot here. The drone management isn't all that glorious, and that is not really the time to put down a natural hatchery. If you haven't got ground control, air control, you'd rather sit back and build it over here. Build another sunken, build a spore. But alas, TSM Ooh is going up to a 3-base Zerg who has 5 more workers. And when your drones are being attacked by, oh, that's a nice snipe on 1 Muta, but still there are 4 more, and of course the Zerglings. So this isn't really going according to TSM Ooh's plan, and although that Scourge connected to 1 Muta, the Muta still lives. And that is, oh, that was a nice snipe, but still this game is over, and that is a nice addition to the playing field, a Zerg bot by Dan Gant. And with that I do not only mean Cherry Pie, but also a bot. So that is the GG. And let's hop into the next game, which will be Cherry Pie, that other Zerg, versus Purple Spirit, and Purple Spirit is of course also a member of the Purple family. Oh, what's that? 4 SCVs being sent out, 3 of them are going to stand around in the middle for reasons, and now they have found the enemy, and the command center is even going to float. And what the bloody hell is this? This is really beyond anything I've ever seen. And the first SCV is going to die. Where is that command center going? That's really the question. As you can see, these workers are still going over the map, doing God knows what. Going to stand in the bottom left, right corner, and going to sit in the somewhere around the bottom left. And Cherry Pie, what's it going to do? It's scouting the map. Will it find that command center? I don't have the usual Brood War. Wow, this is really something. Oh, well, it's found the command center now, and that's basically the GG. Well, like the... Okay, well, if you are going to recommend me a game to cast, please make it a little bit better than this one. Because this one was not strange. Okay, so got the sparks up. And sparks, of course. Oh god, that's my cough again. What I would like to show you is that the ELO ratings isn't running too fast. Now we've got a couple of minutes. The ELO rating, and you have this nice graph over here, which shows you that Crazio, from a little absence, this was during the tournament, has gone AWL, and then right after the tournament went right back on top. TSM Ooh random claimed the spot, Ironbot number 3, and below that it's well, it's a little bit messy, but important thing is Crazio's back and back in shape. Now again, let's look at the ELO points. Oh, not really 100 points up. TSM Ooh random is kicking ass. Then Ironbot, and then another TSM Ooh Chris Cokes with over triple ZK. And then Killerbot, which had a good run at the tournament, and I think is still banking on that. B-Reaver Cherry Pie with a legit ELO ranking this time. Still, a lot of work needs to be done. It's rather vulnerable to Zealot all-ins, but versus the top bots, it really performs well and consistently well. Then Neo Edmund Zerg, Eric Hammer, and then the two old guys. And we bought the winner of the student bracket, so hello there. And then Purple Wave, Steam Hammer by J. Scott. And of course then there is the rest. But what I wanted to show you is is the McRave bot, and it is a good thing that we still have one McRave bot over here, even though it's the Terran and not the flagship Protoss. But we'll see what it can do versus Johan Kaiser, and of course Johan Kaiser is blue and Sparks is a yellow. So with a nice war. And I don't know if this is tight, doesn't look like it, but with 2 Marines in the bunker that would be okay. 4 Marines now, more Marines coming up. Factory being built, and Johan Kaiser is going for what it always does, just a lot of bunkers with Marines in them. And I do not yet know why this game has been recommended to me. Oh, here we go. That's a dual starport, and what's brewing? I think that's Cloak. Yes, that's Cloak. Spider Mines are there as well. A couple of vultures, and they are going to town on this turret, which has been placed outside of the range of the bunkers. And of course, without range, which is well, could happen anytime now. These bunkers can't really project enough force to protect the turret. And here we've got the Wraith. And let me have a look at the Wraith. The Wraith, I talk a little bit like a Wraith now. I forgot what they say. Oh dear, that's really not good of me that I forgot what the Wraith says. Especially now I've got the voice, so perhaps I'll look it up later, and I can only hope that my voice will be like a Wraith again next week. But there are also... Oh, that's stupid behavior by the Wraith. So Wraiths are being built, and vultures. Natural is mining. I'm going to speed it up just a little notch, because aside from this minefield... Oh, here comes Kaiser. Oh god. Can we have that again, please? Here come the vultures, and when the vultures died, Marines come out. Oh! 2 mines! And the rest of them was deep down in the red, so that's pretty funny. Now Sparks going for some kind of a vulture wraith thing with Cloak now, so that's good. And how much DPS have you got in these wraiths? They will uncloak presently, and then it will all be shot to pieces by these Marines, which have quite a bit of firepower versus units with only about 100 HP. Oh, now a tank for Johan Kaiser, and it's being a little bit silly, so it can't really get too much done. It's just outside of the range of the... Oh, it's inside of the vulture range, but it's being pestered by the wraiths as well, so it's not really working too well at this point. And Johan Kaiser has got a natural up, and is holding surprisingly well. Sparks here really having some kind of issue, and well, with the Wraith Vulture thing, it's not really... Sparks not really fighting as efficiently as it could. And every time the Wraiths decloak, it's going to be a loss of a lot of minerals and gas, so that's not really working at this point. But Johan Kaiser is really propping up a nice fleet. It could build a comsat, hasn't been programmed to do so. So will take a while probably. Oh, and oh dear, what was that? I can't see. More bunkers with marines coming up by Johan Kaiser. And though the bunkers are being torn down occasionally, it is actually worth the money, because these wraiths and vultures which are dying are worth a lot more than the bunkers and the marines. And now we've got a worker going to town on these buildings. And that may take a while because it's also trying to hide from these marines, which is rather silly. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit more because it looks like Sparks isn't really going to it's going to long distance by now. And Johan Kaiser still has got stuff left, so that's good. And unfortunately it has got to traverse the map with all these mines and vultures. Oh, and Sparks now has a third base. So third base for Sparks, fourth base for Sparks. Johan Kaiser sitting back. Why am I casting this game? This is absolutely ridiculous. I've been with the tournament since 2014, which is 4 years now. Wow, that's a long time. And I always thought that what has been called potato games are really going to get less and less. But apparently there is unlimited potential for bots messing up. That's a lot of raids. Let me have a check. There's 37 raids and a GG for Spark. So that said, we'll need to hop into the next recommended game. That's always also the last one. So I only got four games recommended this week. And well, I'll be working a lot in the coming summer, so I won't really have all that much time to watch the screen and see which games are particularly good. So if you do happen to see a good game, you can find my email address at the top left. Please send either an OpenBW link or the replay itself to me, and I will cast the game. Now it's Nightcat, which has received an update post-tournament. And Antigua, of course, being based on Steamhammer, has got quite a bit of potential, but also, well, it's not really the most aggressive. It's, if you compare it to P-Reaver or McGrave or TSM Ooh Protoss, it really hasn't got the late game or the mid game killers like a shuttle with a Reaver or a High Templar, Dark Templar thing. It's just trying to do a lot of stuff of gateways, and that might be a nice match because the opponent likes to do exactly the same thing. Got a bit of a standoff going, Nightcat with the slight army advantage. And Antigua, well, it's not really intent on producing many gateway units, and now losing a lot, so everything that will come out of the gateways now will have to face an increasingly strong enemy army. So will we have... no, we are going for Observer first, because there is nothing like seeing your building being torn down. And Nightcat is rolling into things. The goons here in the main base are some hiding. Now camping the high ground, which is good. If they can hold the ramp, they might be able to hold on for a little bit. But a 2 versus 1 base situation is just not very sustainable. The observers for Nightcat aren't really doing anything. Then again, what is there to do if the enemy base already looks like this? Third base by Nightcat Protoss. And you can see Nightcat really coming into its own. There is a citadel, there is a robo facility, and upgrades are being done, so it's only waiting and a matter of time for more tech heavy units like Dark Templar and air units are being put into play. It's always good to see a bot being upgraded like this, and that's the GG. So without further ado, here are some games I picked myself, because I thought, well, they were interesting from an update point of view. That the bot, which is in the focus, has been updated over the last couple of weeks, and that certainly can be said for Alien. And I thought, well, Alien, if you have been, or at least Silmi, if you have been working on your bot, let's put it to the test. And as an adversary, I take Ice Labs, which of course hasn't been updated. It's very stable and also still pretty good. So that's... oh, and the bunker just finishes right on time to hold off the Zerglings. Natural is sort of up for Alien, not really populated, lots of hatcheries. And there goes, wow, that's really ballsy. That's 9 workers and already 3 bases. That's quite a lot, containing the enemy with a handful of Zerglings. Ice Labs has gotten a lot more workers, but they aren't really mining, they are hovering around the bunker in case these Zerglings try any funny stuff. And now you can see Alien working its way up from 9 to 18 workers, and already another base being taken, wow. I would advise putting a little bit of pressure on it if you were going to play it, because that is just workers being produced all around, workers, infrastructure, and nothing much else. Here comes the lair in the 3rd base, because why not? And Ice now has some tanks on the high ground, still the only bot which actively uses high ground. And I really like to ask myself, is that so hard to do? Because with all the terrain analysis with FAP and BWEM, there must be a way to do something with the high ground, and especially in Brood War you've got this huge advantage, not only line of sight, but also a 30% chance to miss if you're on the low ground, and if you've got tanks on the high ground, it can't really get much better than that. Now Alien, while I've been blathering away about the high ground, has also brought a couple of Hydras to the fore, and has droned up to 55 workers. What a crazy build order this is. And all kinds of tech being built in the 4th base. This is a Spire and the Queen's Nest in the 4th, because why not? And Ice is trying to exert a little bit of pressure. Going for 3rd base, yep, there we go, but hasn't been able to move out on the map and mine all the bases, so Alien appears to be in a good position there. And Greater Spire, oh hello, what are we watching? Taking the middle base, taking another base, and you can't really let a Zerg run away with a map like this. It is not cherry pie, it's Alien, it's a very good bot, but even then you'd be well advised to not do what Ice is doing now. Of course, 3rd base is nearly up, it's a little bit exposed, but Alien nearly has every base on the map. Oh, and these muters had better leave this alone, because if Ice spots a muter, it will press Goliath until the cows come home. It's really because the one big adversary in Ice Lab's time was the Berkeley Overmind, which did a lot of nasty things with muters. Oh, and these lurkers are really tearing things up. There should be a scan. Now, yeah, there comes the scan, but Ice was fighting the muters first, so that was a bit of a goo-glue. And the tanks now shut everything down. So if Ice detects a muter, a single one, it will go way overboard on Goliaths. Doesn't really matter how many muters there will be. And of course, now there are a lot of Goliaths, and the 4th base by Ice. I think Alien could be keeping tabs on that a little bit more. Now the enemy army has been spotted at this base. The entire war train, which includes Ultralisks now, is moving over. Meanwhile, we've got 75 workers, a huge ground army. Let me have a small look at the upgrades. We've got Lurker Aspect, we've got Irradiate by Ice, and Zerg is really putting all the stops, building every upgrade it can. And with 74 workers now, look at this, way too high saturation on the main, and the slightly lower saturation at this, and this base. And there comes the attack on the natural, because Alien is approaching max. It's got so much money, it can't really do anything about it. And Ice trying to desperately trying to get up the ramp, but these Goliaths are blocking the advance of the tanks. And Alien is now all over this, and this Ultra is doing so much damage to the Zerglings being irradiated and all. That's really a good move, and this Valkyrie is, if you look at that, come here, stupid Overlords. The Overlords are so pretty low. This one Valk, and of course the Goliaths have been doing a lot of damage. Now Ice is running out in the main, and the natural will have a little bit of juice in it, but there is so much Zerg at this point, it's just way too much for Ice to handle. Supply difference is getting huge, and Alien, well, it's got a lot of upgrades, but I would really like to see some Guardians or Swarm, because it's where Swarm's coming into play. The Terrans really can't rely on their mines and tank thing as much. And right now, ooh, that's a nice timing to more for a lot of lurkers, but it seems like ice just doesn't have the firepower to do anything about it. So while these lurker eggs are shielding out all the Zerg units, it's not really working as well as it... oh, and now they're all burrowed, so that's a lot of damage. But with 1 or 2 swarms, this would have been over ages ago, and I think that if you are going to take on Crazio and Iron and TSM... Ooh, this poor worker transfer. Getting cut down by all the Zerg. If you've got any kind of swarm implementation and perhaps drops with the lurkers, which of course need detection to clean them up, you are really in a position to contest the big Terrans, and that's a thing which should be done. Of course, we are missing the McRave Protoss, which is a work of art. We are hoping to get that back, but for now, Alien looking quite unstoppable, and no fancy tech, just taking the map. Might have a little bit of a worker balancing thing, but there you go. And composition-wise, 128 Zerglings taking a leaf of TSM Ooh's and of course Cherry Pie's book. Lots of DPS that way. So congratulations, Alien. Looking forward to your further development. And then I also saw an update by ForceBot, and ForceBot of course is the bot by Tom Peters from the Delft Technical University. And I thought, well, let's have a look, and since you've been around for so long, let's pick a good opponent like TSM Ooh Terran. And TSM Ooh, always the one for a quirky build. Let's see what it's going to do now. At the end of ForceBot, we are seeing the pool and the gas, and not so many workers. And then an extra hatchery, which I think is a good idea. The scouting is a little bit late. Might have sent a drone out first, because if you had these Zerglings over here, you might have done some damage, especially with a follow-up. But ForceBot is rebuilding workers, and I think that's a good idea, because you see many Zerg just foregoing any kind of decent workers. That's an SCV killed, and oh, a Marine too. And TSM are only suffering the loss of 1 Marine and 1 SCV, and I think at this point it can bear that. First factory is done. Should be producing a Vulture soon. And this worker should be sent to work. Well, that's... and ForceBot has a lot of money, but isn't really doing anything with that. Saving it up for, I think it's going to be a wave of Zerglings, and that better be the natural, because TSM Ooh has got the first Vulture out, and the first Vulture isn't going to start standing around in this semicircle. It's going for blood. And if these Zerglings are... oh, the Vulture will pass them by. That's unfortunate for Zerg. ForceBot starting the lair as well, and now this Vulture is coming to grips with the Lings over here. This one SCV is being shadowed by a handful of Zerglings, and these Marines had better look out, because that's quite a lot of Zerglings. But with the Vulture over here, I'm sure they will be able to cope. Now the Vulture is entering the base of ForceBot, and oh, a little bit of a micro mishap there. Oh, trying to lay a mine, well, that can be your undoing. Always should be careful while laying eggs. And TSM Ooh sitting back, taking the natural, meanwhile taking up. Not as aggressive as many modern bots you see on the map. Have we got Zergling speed? Yep, Zergling speed is done. We've got Spider Mines, and Vulture speed is brewing as well. ForceBot now with 3 hatches, lair coming up. Well, lair done, Spire coming up. And a handful of Zerglings, that's good. Oh, and all the Zerglings die. That's really unfortunate. TSM Ooh going for 2 turrets, having spotted the Spire, I think, with the... no, hasn't got the comsat. Oh well, it's just being very sure of not losing the game to any accidental mutas. And ForceBot had better put up a couple of Sunkens, because, you know, if you don't, you get things like this, and that is too late. Now you've already got 4 Vultures in your base, 1 in the main, and... oh well, there is a Sunken over here, but it's not really... you're losing a lot of mining time, and that could have been easily prevented. Now the Sunken's being thrown up as a response, and that's a 2-base hive build versus TSM Ooh Terran. That's interesting, but generally I doubt if you'll have the army supply soon. We've got 3 Hydras, and a lot of workers, so this is really a lot of workers. 2 Sunkens, 1 in the main, lots of tech, and virtually no army, so I... rather curious to see what ForceBot is going to do with that. We've got the contain by the Vultures, and of course these Hydras can outrange Vultures, but at the point where you've only got about 8 in total, it will take a while. TSM Ooh, having found a third, will cut it down. I think a solid decision, and this Wraith is tearing all the Hydras from left to right, and then the Hydras are being absorbed by the mech army. Now TSM Ooh with a third, building all kinds of tech building units, and 4-spot is really advancing, but it's not really as snappish as the other bots, and in part that may be explained by the relatively low APM. It's only about 300-400, rather 200-300. And TSM Ooh now with the siege mode ranging the Sunkens, while the Muters aren't really enough to, and they are really attacking piecemeal, so that's they're just being absorbed. TSM Ooh all over the map. 4-spot, lots of tech, but not really enough macro, and yeah. Oh, I don't have to wait for the game to end anymore, so that's good. GG. Going to the next game is Peregrine bot, which also received an update, and Sparks. And while we have Sparks on here, well, let's see how it does. Peregrine used to be all about the 4-pool, but received a couple of updates, so I'd be interested to see what it does. And now it appears to be a 4-pool with a couple of extra drones, which is always nice, and extra overlord. And by now the war at Sparks' end of the game might be up. And the first Marine is in there already. Now Peregrine has got a lot of money, so could potentially build another hatchery. Oh, and the Lings tear down, but that's brilliant micro by these Marines. We've got 4 Marines now. They're all on the high ground in the top left for reasons, while the wall is being torn down by Peregrine. And Peregrine has indeed built another lair, so could produce a lot of more Zerglings soon. And perhaps even some more workers. Then build another hatchery, and I always like these 4-pool bots transitioning out of things, and even though it's rather slow. This Vulture has got a lot of work to do because there are so many Zerglings, but the Zerglings are rather intent on killing SCVs, so oh, and Marines as well. So Sparks under a little bit of pressure, only got 8 workers, and this Vulture is not really as on point as you see Vultures be from more experienced Terran bots. And there you go, finally being killed. And oh dear, Sparks going for not enough forces and all kinds of upgrades and tech, which it's not really using at this point. And Peregrine is going to do this of 2 hatches, it seems. That will be the full extent of the upgrades, but if all the enemy workers are dead, it's only got 1 Vulture, and 1 Vulture, well, of course the buildings will take damage over time. And this micro might be a little bit more responsive. It's large, broad strokes, but it's not really keeping the Zergling numbers down, is it? And Peregrine is happy to sit on 2 hatches, just build workers, send them over. And this Vulture is doing what it can, but there are just too many Zerglings, and the damage potential is just too great. And of course any Zergling that will come after the Vulture is going to get killed. But here goes the last building for Sparks, and Peregrine taking the game. That's the GG. Well done. Next game up, Pineapple Cactus versus MadNix. And Pineapple Cactus is a newish Zerg. Has been updated quite a bit. So I thought, well, let's have a game, and let's not take TSM Ooh or Ice as an opponent, because it's a little bit newer, and let's just see what it's going to do. Going for the expansion first, that's an 11 hatch, 11 pool. And MadNix is going to do its beautiful hybrid play again, with a lot of Marines. Here comes the second barracks, if I'm not very much mistaken. Yep, there you go. And Pineapple is going to do this without any kind of army whatsoever. And that's, oh, here come a couple of Zerglings. Small work transfer, always nice to see that there is some kind of worker balancing thing going on. And the Zerglings, now having found the enemy base, are going to make their entry and kill the first Marine, but there are so many Marines by now that just doesn't really appear suitable anymore to try and enter this with a handful of Zerglings. What else is going on? We've got a couple of Sunkens in the main base. That's not really the best position. They do sort of cover the workers, but it's rather built in here. You've got this choke, and you can just neglect any kind of defense in the early game for these bases. That's going to be a 3rd base. That's really ballsy. And all the while still having 3-4 army supply now. We've got a Hydra as well. Let's see if it goes overboard in any upgrades. No, Istnik going for spider mines, that's good. Handful of fire bats, medics, and Zerg had better start producing an army soon, because if this marine medic fire bat thing gets rolling, of course with the vultures and all, if you've only got this handful of Zerglings with the one Hydra, it might be a little bit hard to hold it off. But with the third base brewing, I'm sure that Pineapple Cactus is going to build some more combat units. Animal might build another hatchery, worker transfer, very good, but still no army. And these vultures have been yearning to get out on the map, but aren't really succeeding in doing so. Oh, that's a nice place to take another base, because the Marines are blocking it off. And of course, here we go. And here you've got this big problem. You've got a 40 supply Terran army. The Protoss only got, it's got a, it's got one lurker now. But Istnik is so good that it will have built a comsat, which will not really be a problem. Oh, we've got another combat unit built. Where is it? I must see it. Oh, it's another lurker. So we've got 2 lurkers and 6 Zerglings. Oh, and now finally we've got some army supply building. Pineapple might build another hatchery. You see, oh, there it is, I think. You see all the good Zergs building more hatcheries than they've got bases, because you're really going to need the larvae, especially if you're going to make Zerglings and Hydras. You just need those larvae to continue unit production, and Istnik has got itself stuck on something. I can't really say what it is, but it's not taking the map. And that's giving scan going off, but as there is no unit in the neighborhood, it's not really working. And now the lurkers are coming into play, but these tanks have got things well under control. Another scan goes off, and Istnik will be free to take this base. And this lurker just getting out with a sliver of life left, and with only one comsat, and that's empty now. We've got, oh, get down! With a couple of lurkers, this might go really well for Pineapple Cactus. Pineapple Cactus has a really puny army. The Mutas are doing okay, though there aren't all that many Marines, so if the Marines can be shut down, I think a couple of Mutas could do a lot of damage to this army. Unfortunately, it's 8 versus 40 army supply, and oh dear, oh dear, there we go. But now Istnik's out of scans, and that's really unfortunate. Going to be diverted to the third. And Pineapple Cactus is over here as well, so that might be good. No natural yet for Istnik, and these tanks are just really exposed. Where is the army going? It's going into, I think it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th base. 5th base for Pineapple Cactus, but there is just not enough stuff. The total army supply is only 10 versus 50 of Terran, and Terran will have a much stronger army as well. So that's not really going all that well for our friendly neighborhood Zerg, and it's going to lose the 4th base as well. There is no defense. This Muta won't get out, it will die, and this Sunken isn't up, so it will probably be killed. And oh, it will kill some Marines and probably a Goliath as well. That's nice, but in the end it will just fall. And Pineapple Cactus really ought to get more army together and not build all these Sunkens in the main, because they're not going to see action long before the game's over. Finally, Istnik, having found the time to build a base, a little bit well, badly placed, and all the overlords are in here, but I doubt they are going to do any good. And Pineapple Cactus is just going to lose buildings upon buildings and unit after unit, because it can't really get any kind of an army size up and keep it together. Now, 3rd base going to be shot to pieces as well. 1 Hydra coming out, but it's not really working, is it? And Pineapple Cactus exploding all over the map, trying to take bases, but it's going to lose those as well. And with only a main base, a lot of turrets, that's... We've got to be counting for something, but it's still army supply 1 versus 70. And once the main base has been found, I'm going to call the GG, and oh dear, no, I don't want to see that. I want to see the next game, please, which will be Killerbot by Marion Diveka. Took 2nd place at, well, 2017 finals, which is pretty good. And the opponent's Purple Wave, so let's see how things are going to pan out. Purple Wave going for a Forge Fast Expand with 2 cannons at 2 bridges with the Nexus behind that. And another cannon. That cannon placement isn't all that optimal, but should be enough for the near future. That's a lot of cannons though. And Killerbot not overreacting, just going for a 3-base setup, wow. With 2 in-base hatcheries, that's good because that's really where you're going to get the larvae from. And if you've got the larvae, you can then produce drones and an army later on. So now Killerbot with 4 army supply. Let's see if it makes any more fighting forces than we saw Forcebot do earlier and Pineapple Cactus in the last game. But with 3 bases and its track record, I think it will be able to do so. We've already got 17, 19, and a 3rd base of Protoss under attack. These Hydras are really doing a lot of damage. Handful of Zealots and occasional Goon can't really hold that off. And once you've got this army group together, it's really hard for the enemy to move out of the base. Of course it can hold on with the turrets at the bridges, but it's not like as a Zerg player you're going to lose your army advantage anytime soon. That said, these Hydras are really losing a lot of friends due to the cannons, and I can't really agree with that. Meanwhile, 4th base being taken by Killerbot, and oh, we've got a Reaver now, so if these Scarabs show any kind of intelligence, or if the Hydras are coming too close, I'm sure these 2 Reavers will be shutting them down pretty niftily. That said, Killerbot just going for the Hydra army. Let's look at the upgrades. We've got Hydra speed, Hydra range, +1 done, and no special effects yet. Purple Wave in a bit of a cul-de-sac. It can't really breathe, it can't expand. What can it do? We've got a fleet beacon, and what's flashing in these starports, it's really hard to say. At the moment it can hold on, but should be careful not to waste too many minerals shooting Scarabs at Hydras which are already being killed by the cannons. Oh, that's a nice shot. Oh, surely that's pretty good. And Killerbot not really having all that many army supply, but the 3rd of Purple Waves has already been found and is already being engaged by a couple of Hydras. And if unless these Reavers really exposed are going to do much good, first Reaver's pretty low, I think Purple Wave might be able to save that, then plant a couple of cannons and might be in a good position. Yep, there come the Reavers. Oh, and there come some Hydras from behind. And always watch the Hydras from behind. Taking down the Reaver, taking down the Probe and the Zealot and the 3rd base and all. And although there is 1 carrier, these interceptors of 1 carrier are just not enough. So Killer with the 4th operational and a lot of Hydras, that's really something. We've got 3 carriers now. And that's nice, but if the enemy is going pure Hydra, you might have rather build Storm for that. And that's something that these bots could take into consideration more, that if the enemy is going for, say, Hydras, don't build carriers, build Templar, or try to do something with the carriers which doesn't involve losing a lot of interceptors for no good reason at all. So Killerbot taking yet another base on Purple Wave side of the map. Purple Wave mining out the main, and this composition with turrets, Reavers and carriers and a handful of Zealots versus Hydras doesn't really work. The 3rd is on the brink of being destroyed again, and any kind of interceptor that is built. Oh, the probe transfer isn't going all that well either. Oh, that are some nice shots by that 1 Reaver, but in the end there are just too many Hydras, and here goes the 3rd again. And then again, you've got a bit of a money sink with all the interceptors being shot down, and of course you've only got 1 base which is mining out. The turrets are now being engaged despite the Hydras being in a terrible position at the bridges. Storming the natural by force, and Purple Wave hasn't got... Oh, look at the production tab, that's a lot of Hydras. And Purple Wave hasn't even got money for 1 interceptor. It's got 2 carriers, 4 interceptors, and about 100 Hydras coming out. Oh, that's really 100 Hydras. So if ever you get asked the question, what does a lot of Hydras look like? And you can answer them with this screenshot. This is what a lot of Hydras look like. It's GG, and next game up will be Zer versus Haupan. And Haupan, supposedly built on Ironbot, should be pretty good. But then again, we see that with the Steamhammer bots, the original is usually very much better than any kind of successors. A couple of exceptions are, of course, Icebot, which is better than Aya, which has been based upon, and Steamhammer, based on University of Alberta bot. But generally, it's pretty hard to take a complex product as a starting coda and make something out of it which is better than the originator. And here we see the Marines getting stuck for reasons. Haupan, what's it doing? It's building workers, it's leading the enemy on a wild goose chase, and Zer is going for a lot of lurkers. And the lurkers are going to chase the SUV and all. That's pretty hilarious. But with the Hydra, finally it gets killed. And the Marines are playing hide and seek with the enemy. Now lots of money on the end of Haupan, going for a couple of more Marines and a medic force. But versus the lurkers, they would be well advised to run, and that's exactly what they're doing. Then again, the Hydra's taking a spit at them every once in a while, and that's very detrimental to their health. 16 workers for Zer, but Zer with a better unit composition and of course the better inclination to fight. Haupan, if this is based off iron, I do lack a lot of things I like about iron, and this bio thing with Marines only running and not fighting isn't really doing it for me at this point. Then again, we once had someone who said, well, I just started with this Brood War AI thing and I took a TSM Ooh bot and I find it really hard to get into. If you take Iron or TSM Ooh, which are really complex pieces of coding, oh, this turret repairs quite well, but it can be very complex. And, oh dear, I don't know, we've got a comsat, but we haven't got a scan coming up. And Zer is trying to get anything together, but isn't really on point as it is either. So this game is getting really out of control. But if you take a really complex product like TSM Ooh or Iron and then try to roll with that, it's not at all easy to get into. And you might just, well, start out with the example bot, build on that, and once you've got a better grasp of the game and you haven't fallen in love with your own creation, then you might take a more advanced product and try to improve on that. Now, the lurkers have finally arrived, which is good. Zer doing still everything on 25 workers, which is why this game is taking forever, because Haupan is not really attacking anything at all. We've got these first 2 or 3, I've got 2, 3, I think 2 lurkers, and nothing too much is happening. Going to speed it up just a tiny little notch. Oh, scan goes off, but oh, it's 4 lurkers now, I think, yep. 4 lurkers, but with the Bioforce versus 4 lurkers, whoa, that's very hard to do. Oh, ninja expansion, but shut down and lifted. Missed that, and Zer refusing to take another base, just doing things very, very slowly, now building a couple of more workers. Oh, finally another base. And these lurkers are doing everything by themselves, you might as well. Because the enemy is just Marines and SCVs and medics, and they are not attacking lurkers for some reason. And Haupan's got a lot of work to do. 4th base being taken by Zer, this base not having been put down again. Haupan in a lot of trouble. Oh, we've got the Ultra Cavern. And now we've got the Muters and the Hydras and the Zerglings. And that's the GG. Congratulations to Zer, and really, Haupan, good luck with getting Iron to work in the way you want. It is not an easy task by any means. So I thought, well, let's have a good Zerg versus Zerg, because right now the Zerg versus Zerg matchup is the one that most appeals to me. Because generally speaking, it's still Terran over Protoss due to siege tanks, and the Zerg is where things are happening right now. We've got Steamhammer, of course, we've got Cherry Pie, we've got Killerbot, we've got Microwave, we've got Alien, we've got TSM Ooh Zerg, and of course we've got Cherry Pie, which is a marvel of its own, and I can't really wait for the update, which has been announced some time ago, but isn't really coming at this point. And Cherry Pie going for the very safe quick lair with 1 sunken, and then just defend at home while being under the cover of this 1 sunken over here. Of course, the correct answer to that was to build more workers and take your time and either build up a Zergling force or go for more Muters later on. But that's very hard for a bot to assess, and I think as far as build orders go, that's a pretty clever build order by Cherry Pie. Now Microwave with the small Zergling advantage, but the micro of Cherry Pie is just outstanding. Every time a Zergling of Microwave sticks its nose in too far, the Zerglings of Cherry Pies will turn and bite its head off, and then the army disparity is, oh, that's very close. And the new Sunken is now coming into range, so doing a lot of damage to Zerglings, especially in a Zergling versus Zergling fight where the damaged Zerglings are running around. It's very good to have a Sunken on your side. And Cherry Pie now with 1, 2, 3 Sunkens starting the Spire, and the Lairs only now starting for a Microwave. Is that going to be a hatchery or an Evo chamber? I think it's going to be an Evo. Or a Hydra? No, it's an Evo chamber. Another hatch, might build a lot of more workers. And this Overlord's got things well under control. Cherry Pie going for a couple of more workers, trying to plant down another hatchery here. And I think that if you put up a couple of spores, you might do pretty well. Then again, you'd really have liked to have read this, because this Overlord has been here all game. And well, of course now it isn't anymore, but it has seen what's going on. And if you are seeing the enemy entrenching itself with Sunkens, then building a Spire, you might, or you'd really need a build order or some kind of learning that says, well, if this is happening, it's not a good idea to just sit back and do nothing. Might have built a lot of more workers, because it's still only 1 hatch, soon to be 3 for Cherry Pie. But you can do a lot with 3 hatches versus only 1. Just build a couple of defensive buildings, build some technology, get something done. And you could have easily had triple the amount of workers in the time it took Cherry Pie to build 2 Muters. But these 2 or 3 Muters are now really roving the map, because there is just no answer from Microwave. Microwave now has 3 hatches, 2 gas, that's an advantage, because 3 hatches will be here momentarily as well. But Cherry Pie's now got the advantage in the air, and that's also got the army advantage. So Microwave really ought to be more careful with the Muters than to just send them out. Oh, that's very unfortunate. 1 gets scored! No, it just reaches the Sunken in the nick of time. And then the Zergling's incursion by Microwave is not going as planned, but the Scourge are all over this, the Muters are all over this. The Spore is falling, but the Spore just barely holds. And I'd really be a lot more happier if I saw another Spore here, because with 2 Spores there is only so much you can do with one base Muter. And 2 Spores basically shut that down. Microwave now with the Muter advantage, I think. Let's have a small peek. We've got 8 versus 8 Muters and some Scourge for Cherry Pie, so Cherry Pie still ahead. Upgrade wise, that is air armor by Microwave. Microwave really ought to be careful with these Muters, because there are a lot of Scourge, and if the Scourge are cloned well, they will hit, they will nearly kill a Muter! And there we go, the battle is raging above the natural of Microwaves. Microwave now with the Muter defense, and I think Microwave is going to come out ahead, because it's got 27 versus 12 workers. Cherry Pie still hasn't found time in his build order to put down a natural hatchery. And upgrade-wise, Microwave is going to outgun Cherry Pie in the near future. Army-wise, it is 11 versus 5 Muters, and although there are a couple of Scourge, and Cherry Pie is really, I don't know why it's pursuing Microwave if it's got such a small force. Microwave now being a little bit hesitant, might also be plopping down a Sunken as well, and there really ought to be a check in a Zerg that if a Spore is nearly dead, don't wait for it to regenerate, because it means you're under attack, you need another one. Or 2, just to be sure, especially if you are on 2.5 times the worker count of the enemy. And now the Muters of Microwaves are rolling in, they are dishing out the damage. Cherry Pie under a lot of pressure, and now the workers are all for it. And it seems like Microwave has found an answer in a build order, because make no mistake about it, Microwave's got more build orders than one, and it can learn as well. And now Cherry Pie under a lot of pressure, base being depopulated. Microwave, what a good fight. And unfortunately it wasn't so in the tournament for you. Unfortunately for Cherry Pie that it wasn't. So next up, Purple Wave versus Eric Hammer. Eric Hammer, haven't seen an update from that bot for a long time, but still a very good Zerg. And I thought, well, why not show a game versus Purple Wave, because Purple Wave's pretty good and we might be seeing some nice units. Quick 3rd hatchery for Eric Hammer. taking the snipe on this one zealot, and the lings will regenerate. So if you have got good ling micro, you might keep the damaged lings out of harm's way. And while this one ling here was deep down in the red, while it made its way across the map, it's already, well, it's got about half of its health back, so that's very good. And if you are keeping into contact with the enemy, you know how many zealots there are, and you might build some more zerglings, then again you might not, for reasons unbeknownst to me. You might just build a lot of sunkens, and that I think is a defensive choice, because those sunkens will not help you attack. And if the enemy has got zealots, you'd be much better off building a couple of hydras just for laughs and giggles. Just build one sunken, build a couple of hydras, build a couple of drones, and then you're in a much better position. And it's these kind of decisions which are really hard for Zerg to make, but if you've got the 3 hatches, you've got a lot of larvae, and there you go, we've got the first hydra. But still, it's 24 versus 7 army supply, and if the Protoss were to find the third base is really exposed, and this one hydra is trying to rejoin the main army, but it's not going to work, is it? And then Protoss really ought not to take this fight, because it's very costly, and although it's doing some damage to one sunken and it's taking down a couple of zerglings and the occasional hydra, it is just too expensive. Purple Wave, realizing that it needs more units, planting down the natural, and it will also be interesting to see what kind of tech path we will get. We've got the Goon range, Hydra range and speed, and that's about it. And really you ought to be careful with a Zerg like this, because once you go for a lot of Zealots and Goons, there is only so much you can do in a Protoss versus Zerg with that. And oh dear, Eric Hammer really ought not to fight this, but Protoss is retreating, and of course retreating units are easily killable. 4th base started for Eric, and oh dear, the Goons. And I don't really know why Eric Hammer is pursuing this. It's really beyond me, because these Hydras are all going to be absorbed, and there is no production behind that. And once the Protoss has held, it's got a lot of production potential, and it will just move over to the Zerg kind of end of the map, and then it will be very hard to hold that off, because if you're going to stop to fight the Zealots, the Goons will be in range, and although the Zealots may suffer, your Hydras are going to suffer tremendously as well, and then you end up with a 30 versus 10 army supply, and you're in a lot of trouble. Then again, Protoss doesn't really have the heart to move out of the base at this point, so we'll be returning and getting some more tech, which is always a good idea, because if you see this nice Hydra army kind of builds, you really ought to go for a Reaver or a Storm or anything like that. And Eric Hammer is, what the hell is it doing? It's got so much minerals, not enough gas. It's got 1 gas here, no gas there, no gas there. Also very few workers, so that I don't really like. And you can see this Protoss army getting way out of control, and as soon as there is a single Templar, Dark or Normal, or a Reaver, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And you can build some Zerglings, you can build a lot of Zerglings actually, but you're going to need those workers. And earlier it was 25, now to 31, that's a good start. And Purple Wave looking to take another base, but it's taking a little bit too long. And now we've got a small Goon force on this side of things, going after the Evo, that's good, but then again, oh, and these rallies of Zerg are just being walked over, that's not good at all. And finally the main army coming back, but the Protoss army is getting really big, and the Zerg army is in grave danger of being just mopped up, especially if there would have been 1 or 2 Templars or 1 Reaver, it would be a massacre. And we've got this Templar archive, so Zerg with not enough units. Oh, it's got a lurker now, that's good, especially at the bridges. Doing a lot of damage to the Zealots, but there's only 1 lurker and the army size is 80 versus about 10. And oh, keep your bloody head! Oh god, oh, this is just so hard to watch. Because deep down in my heart I'm still a Zerg fan, and this is... oh, well, could have been played a little bit better. And you can see now that Purple Wave's got the army, got the Templar archives, really ought to take another base. Has... I don't know what these units are doing. They've... yeah. Oh well, still something's building. Purple Wave has caught itself over here. Eric Hammer has got lots of resources, wasting some overlords for reasons. Lots of minerals. This game has crashed. Will it uncrash? No. That was it. Okay, sorry, GG, game crashed. Next game. Nightcat Protoss versus Purple Swarm. And Purple Swarm, of course, is a Purple Wave project. And Zerg play can be rather hard if you're coming from a Protoss point of view. So let's see how that's going to happen. Nightcat going for the 2-gate. And lots of workers. Always nice to see. Just build units, and that's may seem obvious, but we saw last game that Eric Hammer just forgot to make a lot of units, and then you get overrolled. You get rolled over by a lot of units, and that's not a good way to go, really. And that is what a lot of Zerg players are forgetting they can, because they've got this extra dimension of larvae and workers and defensive structures. It's very hard for Zerg to get that right, but you are going to need a lot of units, and now the enemy's got 24 army supply with zealots and goons. This might have been stamped into the ground in 2 minutes flat, and there would be nothing Zerg could do about that. And Zerg really needs an army, and until it's got a large army or a large economic advantage, it ought not to engage. And this drone is being really brave, but the army of Zerg is still so small. It's 11 versus 30, and Protoss is going to build an army, and that is... I don't know why Zerg isn't more focused on getting a large army. The good Zergs are, like Killabot, TSM Ooh, Cherry Pie, they all realize that they need a large army. And here comes the clash, and the army size of Protoss is double, the army value is about triple, because this ragtag band of Zerglings and Hydras is just not going to cut it, and you really got to hope to cut off a couple of stragglers or some kind of mistakes on the Protoss end of things, and this is looking like a mistake because this Protoss army is really passive. And Zerg has got now 4 bases, worker count is way too low, and the hatchery count is also pretty low, so as a Zerg you really ought, well, if the Protoss is standing around like this I would engage it, but it would be much wiser in an ideal world if the Protoss had any kind of fighting spirit and fighting acumen, that you just sit back, build more hatcheries, build a lot more workers, because this is 5 bases of not even 20 workers. That's absolutely ridiculous. And while Protoss is being really passive and only got 3 hatches, trying to take its sweet time, not really optimized, Zerg is in a lot of trouble, would be in a lot of trouble, because you are really going to need those hatches. Per base you need at least 2 hatcheries. And 3 wouldn't hurt either, because the drone count is 17. Buildings are being built, but no minerals are being mined by workers which aren't there. And the Protoss got a large army, but it's over here, and the naturals being ground into the ground. So it's, yeah, it's hard. Zerg army really throwing things around. What have we got? We've got all kinds of tech, but we haven't got any units. Now Protoss is forgetting that you need units and you need to fight. Couple of Dark Templars, High Templars, always a good idea, and now the Zerg army is running, but I know not from what, and still 17 workers. That's really not how you do it. You might have had 87 workers by now, easily. The High Templars are being A-moved into the Hydras, which is not good at all, but oh yeah, nice storm being dodged and all, but it's just a little bit too late for everything. And Zerg still on 17 workers. I can't get over that. And 2 Dark Templars might have shut this down easily. It's just, it's not rocket science. If you force the enemy to bring an Overlord, it's always a little bit extra work. And you can see Nightcat still has got a lot of work to do, but so has Purple Swarm, still 17 workers. And I don't know what this is about. I really don't. Purple Swarm, what's it producing actually? It's producing 3 Hydras at a time. Sending the Hydras over here. Okay, well Protoss not going to come back with 5 observers and a simulator, so let's hop into the next game. which will be Nightcat Terran, because I thought, well, if we got Wildcat Protoss, let's also have a look at Nightcat Terran, and we've got MadNix Terran as well, which is Andrei Kurdyumov with the non-random bot. And let's see how it's going to play. Nightcat going for 2 barracks, good idea, and MadNix with the same. So we've got a bit of a shootout coming up, and of course the high versus the low ground is, okay, well, just give up your high ground position, that's always a good idea. MadNix with a slightly superior army, but the defender's advantage of Nightcat should be enough to stop this thing in its tracks. Academy will be momentarily finished. Ooh, and MadNix with the early advantage. Natural started for MadNix. Nightcat, what's it doing? Is it building medics? Ought to be building medics. Yeah, 2 medics coming up. Comsat coming up. A little bit more refined. So, oh god. Might have been a little bit more responsive, but as soon as medics pop, oh god, this combat micro of Nightcats is absolutely abysmal. And MadNix is going to town on everything that Nightcat has. This one tank is doing a lot of damage though. It's got the +1 armor, which is a boon, and is now stopping this this assault of MadNix in its tracks. MadNix meanwhile seems to be intent upon A-moving medics and marines, but at the point where you've got 2 siege tanks and 3 siege tanks, 4 marines in the high ground, it's not really going to work. And these bots really ought to learn how to use the high ground, because if you put up 2 or 3 tanks here, I don't care how much bio it's going to be thrown at it, it's just going to be impregnable. But instead these tanks unsiege too much for no good reason, and they are not really in good position. So barracks over here on the high ground in the air, tanks a little bit behind it so they can't be reached, and this bio thing is over. Now MadNix, what's it going to do? It's got an academy of its own, it's going to build a large army, it's got a little bit of an army supply, of course it's got 1 more base. So I think it could do pretty well if it took another one. But these tanks of Nightcats are going to be a huge problem, and especially with the bio concave at the ramp. Can't be broken, and it's just going to take forever. Is that the 3rd base for MadNix? Yeah, it is. On Python that could be ranged, and you see once the attack happens, this tank thing shuts it down so easily. And I really, Nightcat ought to have some kind of logic deciding when the tanks are going to siege and when they are going to unsiege. MadNix anticipating some kind of air attack. I don't know if one's imminent, but we've got oh yeah, we've got a starport, so it might be a good idea to have a couple of turrets. And that is a large army by MadNix. And what is MadNix going to do with it? It's going to send it to the 3rd, but this tank line, oh god. This is going to be one of the bloodiest fights, because as soon as these marines are going to be spotted, the tanks will siege, and they're all going to be absorbed by large blasts of this Arcalite cannon. Meanwhile, 4th base by MadNix. MadNix will have access to air units and mech units soon too. And Nightcat really going for the large push. Oh dear, these tanks will be exposed. That's an easy catch. And these tanks will be exposed as well. And of course the bio of MadNix is not all there, but once it gets a couple of tanks for free, it's in an okay position. This Vulture doing quite well, and then it's 3 versus 2 bases. The main of Nightcat is out. Nightcat taking another base here, worker transfer, very well done, but the workers being transferred from the natural. And now Nightcat is pushing with a couple of tanks it's got, but once these tanks are dead, it really hasn't got anything else. That said, the tanks of MadNix do not appear to have they got siege mode at all? No, they haven't. And that is that's unfortunate, because then you're just going to be rolled by these 1, 2, 7 tanks with siege mode, and they are really dishing out the damage. That's absurd. And the army of MadNix doesn't really dare engage the tanks at this point once they are siege, so that might be really expensive. Then again, it's only a handful of tanks, so they should be worn down eventually, and they are now going to go back. Also, wow, we've got a battlecruiser with a handful of SCVs and 2 science vessels trying to get things done. So the tanks are going to defend against that, but that's not really working at this point. Going for the medic first and then falling to the marines. That's pretty good. So there we go. Nightcat with the oh well, the natural has been repopulated, and this game is getting really out of control. Third being shut down by a ragtag band of bio units, and 2 battlecruisers for MadNix. I think I like that. Should keep them in a little bit closer formation, otherwise you're just going to throw them away against the marines. Then again, a lot of marines are killed by these battlecruisers, but Nightcat saves the saves the third, and I think that no, that's not a worker transfer. And MadNix has got quite a lot of workers, but hasn't really got an army, and might lose a base because of that, and that's unfortunate because it's got the eco advantage, but isn't really fighting as well or very well from any kind of perspective. And Nightcat's just doing so much more with the small army it's got. Another base taken, and this base is being under siege for so long. The natural of Nightcat will mine out, and if it does, while the third is torn down, it will have a little bit of a problem, because you can see that MadNix has got a small army, but it's got a pretty good army with the battlecruisers, the Matrix battlecruisers I ought to say, but it's now also losing workers, so that's not good. Nightcat though on a 2 mineral field economy at this point, MadNix on a very small army, and that is not good at all, and you can see MadNix really losing control of the game. It's trying to rebuild workers, which is good, but its army is just so bad, it's beyond anything I've ever seen, and that's very unfortunate. The battlecruiser and the Valkyrie though are getting stuff done, and Nightcat struggling as well as a result of that. But MadNix only got a 13 army supply, and now overruling MadNix completely. MadNix really having some issues, because what's it building? MadNix is building a battlecruiser, a science vessel, and no kind of... okay, well there it goes with the infantry again. This one tank is doing so much damage. These 2 battlecruisers should be shutting it down so easily, but they are falling to the marines because they're out on their own without any kind of support. Now with a Matrix, that's good. And now Nightcat's on the back foot. The third is mining though, so should be okay, but it really hasn't got that much gas. It's got a little bit of a bank. But this tank battlecruiser with repair combo is just doing so much damage. And yeah, well, if you bring an SCV for repair, you don't need any kind of supporting units, and you've got another battlecruiser and another one, so that's pretty good. And once you're over the barracks and the barracks start falling, the battlecruisers can be pretty effective, especially if you've got 3 battlecruisers or 2 even. You can one-shot a marine, and then you're in a good position. So third gets torn down by MadNix finally, and MadNix now has got 51 workers versus 3, is 56 army supply versus 0, and that's pretty much the game. The Valkyrie is there, the science vessel is being repaired in the middle of the enemy base, and the battlecruisers of course are still there. So that's not the best match, but I think that MadNix really deserved this victory. So I say GG. And we've got another game. It's Egbert versus Antigua, and Egbert has been working hard from the University of Carlos III from Madrid. It's the best bot from there at this point. Did pretty well in the tournament as well, and I like the commitment of the author to just get updates rolled out every once in a while. It makes the bot so much better, as will be demonstrated here. So while the other bots from the University of Carlos III have great problems getting minerals mined and producing an army, and if they do that at all, attacking or defending, Egbert is doing okay with the bunker, with the 2 marines, and with a medic as well. So bio-wise, that's pretty well done. We've got 3 barracks rolling, we've got the bunker, we've got the small bio army. And have we got any upgrades? We've got marine range coming up to deal with the goon range of the dragoons, and might keep the medics a little bit closer, because these marines are just going to be absorbed. Antigua with the goon pressure doing pretty well, not anything too hasty. But this angry bio blob is just going to be a lot of damage. And although these goons can micro, they're microing pretty well actually. They're out microing the Marines, and what you'd like to do as a Terran, either not bank too heavily on bio, or get stim and range. And we've now got +1/+1 starter, but the stim would really be of help as well. And these goons can just do the kiting where the medics are in the rear, and then the damage potential of the goons is just too great. And the goon army is getting larger and larger. It's Antigua really being committed this game to the goon push. And now there are many Marines, so the goons start falling if they haven't got the room to maneuver. And that's unfortunate, but without medic backup it's going to be hard for these for the Terran to break out. And Terran really ought to get some kind of, well, I said it, either stim or mech units. Because goons are just too good, and if you're going to go for bio, you are really going to need good micro to back that up. Now, Natural has completed for Antigua, Antigua doing pretty well. And with the goons getting a lot of damage into the Terran, the Natural's been shut down. And any kind of bio coming out of here is absorbed immediately because of the army disparity. And more tech is coming. And that's really where Protoss are starting to shine, and Terran will be starting to shine as well, because you've got to move out of these early game situations where you've only got Marines and medics or goons and zealots. And then once you've got the tank corps or the Reavers or the Dark Templars or the High Templars, then you can really work on your decision making. Oh, and we've got the Reaver. So bio versus Reavers is not really the the best fight for Terran. And although, yeah, oh, the Reaver gets sniped. That's oh, sorry for pausing that. That's nicely done. Third base being started, Natural up for Egbert, and this game is really getting into its own. The goons can't really break it. Oh, but the Reaver is doing so much damage, and that is really where you are getting your advantages from. Oh god! And this Reaver is really doing a... It's must have 20 kills already. It's just pouring out the damage by the Scarab load. And the Marines really, although they're quite brave, they are trying to engage the Reaver, because that's the thing to do. If you just run, it's not going to work at all. But with two Reavers up the front now, it's going to be a hard fight for Terran. And of course there are 3 bases to 2, because the Natural's been shut down again by Protoss. And oh, that's unfortunate. But there are so many units being streamed in from the Protoss side of things. The drone, the probes might have been transferred. But that's the 4th base, and of course the main is in tatters. That's a GG, Egbert. Well, looking good. Might consider a transition to mech, especially if you are trying to fight Protoss with Reavers. That's a good game. And then I got sent one. The player's called Forks, but that is McRave. So he sent me one replay. Just to tease me, I suppose, to see how it's doing versus Microwave. Of course, McRave has some issues with displaying its full might on the stream at the moment. I'm hoping he will come back, because the games are just so good. And I'm anyhow glad that I got this one replay. We've got a Forge Fast Expand with a gateway. That's a nice setup. It should be link tight. And Microwave going for a very quick lair. I don't know what that's about versus Protoss, and very few workers. Should build more workers. And if you see the enemy going for a Forge Fast Expand, you shouldn't probably be going overboard too much with the Sunkens. Lings over here getting crazy, and McRave going for the worker transfer. Natural is up. Overlord overhead, and you should be doing something about that quickly, because it just provides so much intel, and at the price of 1 goon or 1 Corsair you could get something done about that easily. Now Microwave going for some mutas. Wow, who's ever going mutas in Zerg versus Protoss? I don't. Let's see how that's going to pan out. And the mutas are flying straight by the cannons. Oh, going for the cannons actually, with the Lings and all. And there are only 2 cannons, so the mutas should have 3 cannons, 1 in the rear as well. One of the front cannons is falling. But now the mutas have had enough and are retreating. I would have liked to see a couple of more cannons, because if the enemy is going for a muta bust, you might try and be a little bit more safe over here. Muta has been taken care of meanwhile, and that's good. Is this... no, this is not a Corsair. Is there a Corsair at all? There is the potential for Corsairs, especially with 2 StarCAITs, and this worker is not going to get out of there. It's going to fall, and this cannon just finishing right on time. It's really needed, because although the muta count hasn't been replenished, oh, and this worker isn't going to get it really... oh, well, it's going to get out. That's pretty ballsy. Plant down the 3rd, and that's just... what a scout! What the bloody hell is this? Are we having more scouts? Apparently we have. So this is Forge Fast Expand into scouts. Where is the one scout? Is it... it died probably, because there are just way too many mutas. Oh no, it's here. I've still got it. This worker transfer is not going to go well at all. So we've got cannons and scouts, and will we see a 2 gate? God, 2 scouts at the same time. That's really ridiculous. But they've got quite nice damage versus air, so that might be a good thing. And once you get a nice group of them, it's going to be okay. Now microwave with 3rd base, worker-wise, not really all that great. Really needs more hatches, needs more workers, and we've got 2 scouts now. Oh, 3! Oh wow. 3 scouts, and the +1 is getting started. The scout speed is going to be done as well, and the +1 for the ground forces, of course, which will be a great boon in fighting off any Zerglings or any other units in general. And the Zerg units are flapping about like mad. Worker count going up for Zerg, that's good, but really, you are really going to need 2 hatches per base minimum. And that is if you are not building only the most expensive units, or if you are not teching like a madman. 3rd base up for Protoss though, and that's really something. We've got 3 scouts, and look at how fast they chew through an Overlord. We've got 1 more scout, and I'm going to have to keep an eye on the unit counter, because we've got 5 scouts now, and the 5 scouts are really on the warpath. These mutas don't want to have anything to do with that. The Hydras might, because the scouts are only doing about 10 ground damage. And that's not a lot. These Scourge are really badly microed. And McRave is... well, this is not really serious, but still I'm happy to be able to cast a McRave K, because McRave is such a good bot. It's just a pleasure to see it do whatever it wants to do, and in this case, these Scourge really need some attention by microwave. But perhaps they haven't ever seen a scout, and this is... oh god. This is a head-on attack by scouts and zealots into the natural. Of course there is a spore and there are mutas, so that's not going to work, but a 3-base economy might be able to produce a lot of scouts, and 2 scouts are constantly being produced, and a lot of workers for McRave. And Microwave is really suffering the fact that its economy isn't as good as it would like to have been. We've got some Scourge, but from Micro I've seen from them, they're not the most dangerous. They've got Hive already too. And I'm going to speed it up just a little bit, because this is the penultimate game. I've got 1 more game left, which will be, well, the usual suspect, keeping that for the last. And these scouts are really beyond bad, hovering over the spore. They can't really damage it, but that said, what will we see? We will see more scouts and Protoss now also producing some ground units. You can see the army size is really bifurcating at this point. Microwave's troubles getting something off the ground. The Protoss army, oh wow, this is really nasty. Such a lot of scouts. How many have we got by now? We've got 9 scouts, and let's see how they do versus this Overlord. They tear it down so quickly, and the same will go for these mutas. And Microwave, with only 3 bases and finally some extra hatches, is really struggling to get any kind of army off the ground. The ground army of Protoss has now arrived, and this is not a way to kill spore colonies, just to attack it with half of your scout fleet, and the other half is engaged in killing mutas, while the Scourge stand idly by. This is just too bad for words. McRave, I really like your building plans. That's good, and I really like all the scouts. But in the end, I'd so much love to see you back on the ladder, because It's all about the Terrans and the Zerg now. Oh, and the... Yeah, there you go. After a Corsair they go, these Scourge, but the Scout, they just don't know what it is and what to do with it. Now an Overlord and a Hydra and a couple of Zerglings, but there's just way too much Protoss. And although the saturation of drones here is okay, and the saturation of drones there is okay, it's still only one Ultra, and it's 8 versus 7 T army supply. So yeah, you can imagine how that's going. McRae not taking a fourth, even though the main's getting low. Just lots of gateways, 2-star gates that can't really be classified as a lot. And we've got some Corsairs as well. So that's really nice on the air department. And of course, this one Spore is doing everything it can to repel the air fleet of McRae. Zerg really getting some kind of an army together, but then again, it will have to take a fight and it will cut down again, and this is just not working. And the Scourge are doing so well versus these Corsairs, only taking one hit apiece, so they get nicely badly damaged and being able to pick it off with, yeah, there we go, only going after the Corsairs and not really understanding Scouts. That's very unfortunate. Now McRae rolling up with 100 army supply versus only the one of Microwave. Have we got any kind of great technology in the planning? No, we've got Overlord speed, hello, Ultra speed, Zergling attack speed, but we've got no units whatsoever. So I'm going to call the GG. McRae, thank you for sending me one replay, and hope to see you back in action soon with a serious game, because that's well, better than this. But still a nice entertaining build with the Scouts. GG. So last game of the day will be Crazio versus Bereaver. And of course Crazio is the #1. Has been losing a lot of games to Cherry Pie and the occasional game to TSM Ooh random, because it doesn't really know what to do when playing random. That's I find strange, but apparently that is not easy for an AI to do. And Bereaver, still Bereaver, and has got one of the, well, especially now McRae is gone, has got the best Reaver play in on the ladder. So let's see what it's going to do. Going for gate first, then a cyber core, then another gate. And Crazio going for the bunker with the quick expansion, which I like as a build. It's really good. Because you get a lot of purchase out of this bunker defensive-wise and defense-wise, and then you've got the added economy, and that is before the Protoss is up with his natural. So that's pretty good. The scouting SCV finally getting torn down, and Crazio, oh dear, what's it going to do? Build its choke shut, looks like. Sorry, my voice is still playing up even after 2 weeks of the onset of the bubonic throat plague. But Crazio with the starport in the natural choke, handful of tanks, bunker turret, pretty defensive, or to perhaps be into contact with the enemy more, because Bereaver's got a nice army, but of course it can't really do too much against these tanks. Now third up for Bereaver, and Bereaver wouldn't be Bereaver if we hadn't got a Robo Bay with a Robo Support Bay. And the shuttle's done already, so I think the moment this Reaver will be available, it will be picked up, and then the shuttle will try and find a weak spot in the defensive armor of Crazio. Scouting SCV number, I don't know, is being torn down, and a little bit of pressure is being put on the natural choke. The question is, where is that shuttle going? And the shuttle is going, meanwhile, in the path of well, the least resistance. But Crazio's onto it, sending 2 raids, and that is going to, yeah, going to be that. Oh, and only two Marines killed for the price of first Reaver. Crazio looking to be in a good position, has got 1-2 factories, and really needs to deal with his building space a little bit more efficiently. It's hard to get nothing walled in, but here comes the death push again, and that's a lot of bio, and Crazio's been adding that bio. And will we have Storm? Yes, we've got Storm, and the Archon is being morphed in an unfortunate position. I doubt... oh, we've got another Reaver coming, so let's see this battle to Crazio. And the shuttle with the Reaver is coming in here, and it's going to town on the workers. And the SCV are being protected by one shuttle. Oh, that's pretty bad. The Reaver could do with an upgrade, but then again you need to find the time to do that. Crazio is rolling over the Protoss with the Contain now at the natural choke. And although the fourth is here and the third is there is no army production, so any army that's coming to come from Protoss is coming to come from here. And this is a hard Contain to break out of. Now Crazio with all kinds of buildings all over the map, because it's got some issues placing, making effective use of the main base over here. And this Corsair is not really getting too much done versus the Raids. Crazio pretty well versed in defending, and of course this push is going to go pretty well. Scan goes off, Arbiter, Reaver, EMP, and Crazio really demonstrates that if you got the tank and you back it up with scans and science vessels and some higher tech, it's very, very, very hard to beat. These two Templar really... Or perhaps they can find time to cast another Storm. Yep, but on stasis units will not work, or to explain that concept. And this Reaver is being shut down pretty easily, even though the science vessels here are stasis and the rate is. Storm being dodged, and this is the game. So this was this week's broadcast. And although the games haven't been as good as the finals of the 2017 tournament, I think it's still going on nicely, and all the bots are getting better all the time. So thank you for watching. Do visit our website if you like to see these bots play. They are playing 24/7 on our server in the Czech Republic. And if you'd like to sponsor us for new hardware and the maintenance and running costs of the current hardware, you can do so through Patreon, so that would be really much appreciated as well. This was the game, Crazy, you're taking it, still the #1, and we'll see if that's still the case next week. For now I say thank you for watching and listening, and goodbye!